Now that we've got the canopy supports in, we can trace over this blue line, this serpentine line here, for the canopy and loft it. It's going to be kind of a sleek shell supported internally off those poles, and so we're going to do this kind of as a solid here. We'll go with a component and model it in place. And we'll call this a generic model, and the name will be Canopy. Okay, so now what we want to do is loosely trace this line as well as we can here. And I'm going to do it, we'll make this as a blend. Because the nice thing is we can see here in the tooltip is that we can have a start shape and an end shape. And so we'll kind of do a mix of pieces here to get the shape right and let us kind of customize around the poles. I'm going to begin by drawing a spline, and the idea of the spline is we're using the points to affect the influence, or to influence the spline versus directly drawing the curves. And it becomes interesting to see it here a little bit, but there's my line, and what I'm going to do is simply come along as an example and draw the spline and place down as many points as I need to get the curve looking right. And I can always come back and change these, but I'm really looking for the smooth flowing curves evidenced in the original artist's work, and to get those, you know, really flowing along here. I'll zoom back and kind of place this bulb at the end, and I'm going to take this right around to the wall and hit enter to finish my line. I can always come back and verify this against the original line if I need, or grab it. And then I'm going to add to this just some straight lines here along the wall, making sure it snaps nicely on the corners and on the end points. And there's the first line. And then within that blend, I've got, this is a bottom and a top, and I can start to choose some other shapes. And so what I'll do for this one then, I may actually flip these around in what I'm doing here, which is not a problem. But I'm going to draw another line, and this one is going to follow here the contours a little closer along those poles. We'll just sort of weave it in and out here so that it's fairly consistent down at the wall. And once we get away from the wall, we really start to see some serious variety in the contour and the curve. And this also gives us the opportunity, if we need, to have the flat sections for, there's my line, for any structural stability. And again, I'm going to connect this with a flat line. And Revit will do a pretty good job of sewing things up, and occasionally I'll miss like I just did and have to go in and edit it, and it's just not a big deal to go in and fix things, so don't be afraid to. And I'll select modify and pick this line, and now I'm going to pull that endpoint up till it matches and check. Okay. And there's my blend shape, and now I'll check finish model. And I'm going to spin around in 3D and see how this looks and what I need to adjust. Well, it's pretty neat. So the interesting thing is, you know, I got the shape pretty good. I can always come back and adjust and edit the profile, but it's flipped. And so the last thing I'll do here is to actually flip this around. I'm going to select this shape, and I can grab these nodes, and I can actually really just grab and pull it like that. And top and bottom have flipped. These blue arrows help me do that very nicely and flip that shape around. And what I can also do with this is really kind of edit this shape if I need in space or in a side view or otherwise. And I can move this up so it sits even with the top of the columns, and I can use different constraints, or I can move it as needed and create that canopy. And so I'll probably go in and maybe kind of pull the bottom up so it's a little bit flatter here, and then move this on top of the poles. And if I need to adjust, I can go back and edit it in place. And I've actually got my lines here, and if I want to go back and either edit the top or the bottom, so let's say I want to edit the top, there's that line, and back here into a floor plan, there's my line, and I can select vertices and modify or edit them, and even picking that Bezier line, or the spline, there's my line end. So it's very, very flexible of a language to be able to do this. And it might take me a try or two to really get the curves right, and that's perfectly fine. And so now what I'll do to finish this is start moving these points to match that line a little better, and getting the curve here of that canopy in the right place. Once I'm done, I'll hit Finish Edit mode and Finish Model, and there is my line again. So you can see I obviously need to go in and pull some points and maybe recolor that or make it easier to see, or see if I can just grab it straight out. The one caution is sometimes imported lines tend to have a lot of points on them. They subdivide very heavily, and I would rather draw it clean to get the lines where I want them and then adjust as needed. Anyhow, I'll finish this out, we'll see the end of it, and we'll move on to the bench.